I'm Alex Sharfin, and this is the Momentum Podcast, made for empire builders, game changers, trailblazers, shot takers, record breakers, world makers, and creators of all kinds. Those among us who can't turn it off and don't know why anyone would want to. We challenge complacency, destroy apathy, and we are obsessed with creating momentum so we can roll over bureaucracy and make our greatest contribution. Sure, we pay attention to their rules, but only so that we can bend them, break them, then rewrite them around our own will. We don't accept our destiny, we define it. We don't understand defeat because you only lose if you stop, and we don't know how. While the rest of the world strives for average and clings desperately to the status quo, we are the minority, the few, who are willing to hallucinate there could be a better future, and instead of just daydreaming of what could be, we endure the vulnerability and exposure it takes to make it real. We are the evolutionary hunters, clearly the most important people in the world, because entrepreneurs are the only source of consistent, positive human evolution, and we always will be. Evolutionary Nutrition. I want to talk to you today about your diet, but this is something that so many of us are sensitive to and have a hard time talking about or have just talked about too much in our lives. At first, I want to make some assumptions about you, who you are and who we are, who the two of us are, so that you understand where I'm coming from. See, I believe you are the entrepreneurial personality type, an evolutionary hunter, one of those people among us who's driven to create momentum, move forward, go out and make things happen. And I think that gives us attributes that the rest of the world really doesn't pay attention to, but this is where our success comes from. You know, it's our high sensitivity and awareness. Wouldn't you agree that you have high sensitivity and awareness? That you walk into a room, you know the conversation that was being had, you see things other people don't see, you feel things other people don't feel, you know what it feels like. I have this, I have high sensitivity and awareness. And that high sensitivity and awareness is what allows me to do things that like most people just don't do or can't do or won't do. Like as an example, I have some friends who did a video, a 2-minute commercial for their accounting company. In fact, they're my accounting company, and I'm friends with the two owners. And they sent me their video, and it had been done by professional editors. And I watched the 2-minute video. I watched it twice, and I sent them 39 comments, 39 suggested changes. And at the end of the 39 suggested changes, this was after it was for final use and editors had been through it, they accepted they made 36 of them. Like, that's high sensitivity and awareness. Don't you have something similar? Don't you have something in your personality that also allows you to see and feel things that other people don't feel? That ability of mine to be really sensitive to video, that's been something that's made me successful. But under high pressure and noise, that high sensitivity gets hard for me. I get sensitive to light. I get sensitive to clothing. I get uncomfortable being around people. I get uncomfortable in situations that I can't control. That same high sensitivity and awareness under high pressure and noise, it's like the world feels like it's yelling at me. For a lot of us too, like there's 10 attributes of the entrepreneurial personality type. That's one. As evolutionary hunters, as the small population driven to move forward, we also have that drive for gained advantage. That we're always asking, how do I get ahead? However, it's that drive for gained advantage that when we can't get ahead, it drives us crazy, and we can appear aggressive and cutthroat and overwhelming to the people around us. See, under low pressure and noise, drive for gained advantage is how we create our success. Under high pressure and noise, it's how we show up the wrong way in the world. We are high. That's another attribute, is we're highly adaptable. I know this about myself. High adaptability is what allows me to modify when I need to modify. I've been in so many different industries and done so many different things in my life because I've made the most that I could out of the opportunities that were available in the present. And it's that ability to adapt that has allowed me to go from industry to industry, to go from working with Fortune 500 to working with the government, to go from working in the consumer and computer electronics industry to go to working at the very highest levels of the retail industry and the broadcast industry and in the real estate industry and with lenders and investors. And, I've gone from room to room because I have really high adaptability. I very quickly can understand the culture of an industry and make myself fit. And however, that high adaptability, when I have times of high pressure and noise in my life, I know what starts happening. I adapt and I change and I make changes and I keep changing until I look up one day and I'm like, how in hell did I get here? How many of you know you've done something like that before in your life? And, that's where you have to go change everything. And people are like, oh, he's self-sabotaging. In my 20s, I adapted and I grew a company to over $250 million. But I grew a company I didn't even want to have. I grew a company that once I met my wife, Katie, I sold in a fire sale as fast as I could so I didn't have to show up anymore because I built it the wrong way. I didn't understand what I understand today. I had massive pressure and noise in my life. For the first time, I was doing everything in the business. For the first time, I was hiring people. For the first time, I was bringing in HR and payroll. I was signing office leases and committing to, properties all around Latin America. And I was hiring like multiple people. And it was crazy. But it was that high adaptability that let me do it. And then it was that high adaptability that let me do it so much that I got to a place where I didn't want to be there anymore because it was way too high pressure and noise. With high pressure and noise, I just kept changing, and I never made it easier for me. So are we agreed that you and I are very similar in this regard? Because if we are, then I want to talk to you about nutrition in a different way than anyone ever has, because so many of us look at nutrition as like, well, I can eat what I want to, or I'm okay with not being in the greatest shape, or any of the things that give us the excuse to eat the foods we know we shouldn't. Because I want you to understand, I've been there. I've made the excuses. I've eaten the foods that you shouldn't eat. I've gotten to the place where my body rebelled on me because I had done so many different things that I just started gaining weight, and I couldn't stop, and I even exercised, and I tried to eat healthier, and like something happened where I started gaining weight and I couldn't get rid of it. And then when that happens, I was so demoralized. I went from trying everything I could to do make it better to when I figured out it wasn't going to get better, I was like having double cheeseburgers, and I ballooned up to 300 pounds. Just so happens that was at the same time I was growing that business. And I let my nutrition get completely and totally out of control. And I can tell you that when you do that, you believe that it's affecting your body. You believe that it's affecting you. You just don't realize how much and how dramatically it's affecting your ability to create success. I think unfortunately, sometimes we look and we see successful people that don't take care of themselves. So we tell ourselves, well, you can be successful without taking care of yourself. And I've never seen it work that way. For me, the way that I've helped entrepreneurs create success and become successful is to start taking care of themselves in a radical way, to start offloading what makes them uncomfortable, to get help everywhere they possibly can. You've heard my podcasts on this if you've listened to any of them, to get groceries delivered and to get people to clean your house and to get all of the noise in your life as low as you possibly can so that you can go out and achieve and perform and do more. And then what happens is so many people listen to all of that, but they don't change one of the most foundational, possibly the most important place where we either accept or deny pressure and noise, and that is when we open our mouths and eat. Because today, the food supply is poisoned. And I'm not going to pull punches. I've done too much research. I've experienced too much. I've seen far too much. I've worked with too many people through these problems. And when you look at all of it, you have to understand today that our food supply is poisoned. If you're pulling over to a fast food place and eating processed food of any kind, you are putting yourself at risk. Because you are an evolutionary hunter. Pressure and noise of any kind will push you from the threshold where the attributes that make us successful and make us magical are positives to the place where you start faltering and failing to create the momentum you want without an understanding that pressure and noise anywhere creates pressure and noise everywhere. So if you aren't taking care of yourself and feeding yourself like a professional athlete, I ask why. Because today, when you look at the foods that are out there, we have to avoid, and I'm going to go through them so you understand what choices you should make. So first, if you're eating foods with any type of artificial sweetener, go look at the research of what these products really are. Most of them are mistakes. They're mistakes. Like artificial sweeteners, most of them were created by accident. And ironically, usually it was creating some type of poison or neurotoxin that artificial sweeteners were accidentally discovered when somebody like licked their hand. I'm not kidding you. This is how these products came about. They were trying to create either a neurotoxin or a deadly chemical or a pesticide, and that's where they made artificial sweeteners. And if you look at what these chemical compounds are, they are a product that without caloric value, which means it doesn't digest in the body, but now we're finding out artificial sweeteners digest and screw with the stomach fauna and do all kinds of other stuff that we didn't know that they did. But what this product does is it hits the tongue and it fools the brain into thinking that there's a sweet product there. So that is a neurotoxic effect. What it does is it triggers the nervous system in a false way. It over-triggers. So there's nothing sweet there. It makes it think there's sweet there. So in a small quantity, in a diluted molecule, it makes you taste sweet. You have the full force molecule, it might kill you. But this is how these products were actually created. And they're anywhere from 200 to the newest ones are 20 or 30,000 times as strong as sugar. And they cause all kinds of issues. Now, study after study has been published on how these are literally killing you. They're making you eat more. They're making you gain weight. They're killing your stomach fauna. There's like any short-term or long-term study of artificial sweeteners shows just how poisonous all of them are. You're not safe. You're not safe touching any of them. And the big, crazy thing about artificial sweeteners, the most recent ridiculousness, is that there is two, advantame and neotame, which are the ones that are, I believe, 20,000 and 30,000 or something like that times as strong as sugar, are used in such small quantities that food manufacturers are allowed to include them in foods without putting them on the label. And so if you're eating processed food of any kind, you're exposing yourself to potential neurotoxins. And the challenges that they create are insane. But when we look at the chronic disease in the world today, especially in the first world, where these products are available, they're going through the roof. The next thing you have to avoid is chemicals and preservatives of any kind. When you look at a label, if you don't understand what something is, you probably shouldn't eat it. Because when you do even cursory research on any of these chemicals or preservatives, you start finding things like they affect the nervous system, they affect digestion, they affect how you feel, they affect gas, they give you gas, they can give you, and what you see is only certain people get side effects. Well, only certain people report side effects. And if there's a product that has an adverse effect on some people, do you really think you're immune? Maybe you're just not showing the symptoms. The next thing you must avoid is colors and dyes of any kind. So if you haven't yet, go take a look and do just a quick Google search on any of the colors and dyes, and then look at what type of an effect they have on the body. 100% of artificial colors and dyes have been found to have a neurotoxic effect on the body. They've been identified by the FDA. They've been reported by the FDA, but they haven't done anything about them. They're still on the market. A couple of them have been pulled off the market, but the ones that are out there, we get into this bizarre debate where we know that something has a neurotoxic effect. We know that it's damaging to the body, like artificial colors and dyes, which they're so like over the top ridiculous as to how much research now shows the effect that they have on our organs, the effect that they have on our brain, our digestion. I mean, it goes on and on and on. But we get into this place where in the States, we make it an argument of freedom of choice. Like, I want to have artificial red number 5, which is just insanity. Because if we really understood what this was, we would understand it's not freedom of choice. We're being sold a bill of goods. Like, the FDA literally does a report every few years on why every one of these substances should be banned. And then the food manufacturers swing in and argue the counterpoint and win because they own Washington and they own the FDA. So it's like an agency that argues with itself because the scientists who do the research have to say, hey, you should take this off the market. And then the other side of the house says, we're going to let the market decide. And then the last thing you should eliminate from your diet is processed sugars or added sugars of any kind. Research now shows that sugar is like the most toxic thing you can eat because it causes all other foods to interact with your body in a way they normally wouldn't. So when you're eating sugar, you're eating a product that literally changes the way especially processed sugar, it changes the way we've digested foods for millennia, all through any type of human evolution you believe in. We are now getting more of a dose of sugar in a day than evolutionary humans got in years. And there's actually now in the United States, there's a acceptable added sugar number every day. There is no reason any of us should be eating added sugar of any kind because it has such a degrading and damaging effect on every system in the body, and it changes the way you digest the other foods you eat. So if you're having any type of cognitive issues or chemical issues, or you're not having the success you want, you've been diagnosed with a chronic illness, anything like that, eliminate these foods from your body because you have to look at what you're actually made up of. Your body takes the foods that you eat and it creates the next day. And if you want to create success in your life, you're not just choosing between healthy and unhealthy. You're not just choosing between, well, can I fit in the bikini or not, or all the other things that we say back and forth in our heads, because I've been there. I know. I was almost 300 pounds at one point. I understand the justifications we make. But if you're eating any of these things, or I would just go as far to say processed foods of any kind, you are putting your health and your success at risk. But I think that the most dramatic effect is on our success because we don't realize how much Diet Coke is taking from us until we stop drinking it. I had a crazy Diet Coke habit. Like, it's just, and you know what? You have yours. What is the habit that you have now? What is that food that you can't stop eating? I've coached hundreds of entrepreneurs through eating issues. And like as many entrepreneurs as there are, that's how many different like obsessions and eating challenges and, have to have a chocolate bar at some time of the day or whatever it is. And for me, it was Diet Coke. I was drinking about a 2-liter bottle or 2 every single day. That's how I hydrated because I grew up in the 80s. When we were kids, we were told Diet Coke was just like water, but it tasted better, so you'd stay more hydrated. So I used to drink Diet Coke almost all day, every day. And if you went to a gym when I was a kid in the 80s, like that sound of opening a 2-liter bottle that goes, shh, you heard that all day long because all types of people drank Diet Coke because it was just like water, only it tasted better. And then it wasn't, because I went through exactly what studies show happens when you overdose on aspartame and caffeine, or when you dose at all. You start having all types of physiological challenges. It messes with your gut fauna. It can cause challenges cognitively, chemically in your body. It can absolutely alter the way you think. It can make you more aggressive. It can make you more detached. When I finally figured out like what was going on and I got off of Diet Coke, it was one of the hardest things I ever did. And you know that if it's hard to stop doing something, there's probably a problem there. I know there was for me. So what is it for you? And if if you are in a place where you're eating the standard American diet, if you're in a place where you haven't really made the changes you should, if you're in a place where, you're not eating as well as you could, I just want you to know something. I've been there. Stop judging yourself. Stop feeling bad about it. Stop feeling like you're going to change on the first of next month. Stop waiting, because this may be the most important thing that will contribute to your success as an entrepreneur. This may be the single biggest point of leverage that you may have as an entrepreneur, because everything we put in our mouths has a hormonal effect on the body. And when we eat whole foods in their original packaging with no processing, and we eat organic foods that don't have all the chemicals and don't have all of the like glyphosate, which is, it's crazy how foods are produced today. When you don't eat organic foods, you have to know what you're putting in your mouth. So that's why going to a normal restaurant, going to a fast food place where you're getting the lowest quality of the food supply is just not worth it. When you look at the side effects of, like, glyphosate is the key ingredient in Monsanto's Roundup product. Now, this is what this product is. I just want you to understand what it is. So we've now created corn and wheat and other products that are Roundup ready, which means that they have crossbred and hybrid a product like corn or wheat, so that, and several others. I think there's soy, and I think pretty much anything in the food supply can now be Roundup ready. And it is through a genetic splicing. They create a plant that gets stronger when it's sprayed with a pesticide. So now farmers can spray with pesticides consistently all through the season. And in order to make sure that, like, they can easily harvest, they often spray twice right at the end of the harvest, so that these plants are inundated with a pesticide that kills every other plant and every pest that has ever attacked these plants, but it's not supposed to be damaging for human beings of any kind. It's supposed to be, like, doesn't affect us at all. We can have as much as we want. And today, there's a government acceptable allowance of glyphosate in normal processed foods, but just look up some of the research that's been done on how much there actually is in processed foods. In some cases, it's 10 times as much as what the government's deemed acceptable, which, by the way, acceptable quantity of glyphosate is 0. Acceptable quantity of artificial colors, dyes, preservatives, sweeteners, 0. Processed sugar, if you have a little sugar every once in a while, like infrequently, it's not going to kill you. But those other products, you're an evolutionary hunter. You can't take the neurotoxicity of products that have never been consumed before in the history of evolution until today. And when you look at the increasing levels of obesity and chronic diseases that we have in the world today, you can trace exactly where the standard American diet gets exported to, and then the resulting dramatic spiking increase in chronic diseases and health challenges. And so for you as an evolutionary hunter, this is your opportunity to opt out, to do something different, to understand exactly how you should eat, and to see what level you really can play at. Because if you've been eating anything than the most optimum food that you possibly can for you, then you've been showing up in a way that's less than what you really can. And I'd like to see what that looks like. If you're interested in changing your diet and your habits and your routine and getting the right nutrition, especially for you, exactly for you, then take a look at my Momentum Masterclass. I've helped hundreds of entrepreneurs get through this understanding what they should be eating, and with an incredibly high success rate, regulate their body weight, increase the levels of success that they have in the world, feel infinitely better, and get rid of things like brain fog and feeling like you're stuck in place. And then if you have a chronic disease of any kind, The process in Momentum Masterclass will help you dramatically improve the symptoms of that disease and feel functionally better and possibly even erase some of them. I've helped people use less insulin. I've helped people get off of prescription drugs because their symptoms subsided. I've helped people lower blood pressure and lower cholesterol and have the symptoms of chronic diseases disappear to the point where they stopped seeking treatment. So I want to help you because as an evolutionary hunter, when we feel pressure and noise in our body, it is the greatest constraint we can feel. And the problem is, so many of us have been eating in a way that hasn't supported us for so long, we don't even feel the pressure and noise anymore. Go to MomentumMasterclass.com, MomentumMasterclass.com to take care of this now and forever and join a product that will help you understand yourself better and make the right nutritional choices customized specifically for you.